Hello. How are you diddling? How you doing? All right, so it's Craig here, Fludded. Sorry, I just wanted to do a quick video because I saw something on Twitter, and I like to respond to things as quickly as I can without editing anything. But it was a tweet, the Piers Morgan Uncensored program. I haven't seen it. I don't have television. But you don't need television anymore because all the best bits, the fools put it on Twitter so I can watch it there. But it was a tweet here which I can show you. Piers Morgan Uncensored with an interview with Andrew Neil. So if I just play what he says here in this video to you at the beginning, and I'll play it to you, and I'll shut up. So
and I'm sure that if you and I put public hangings on our program, it'd be pretty good for ratings for a while as well. You know, there are some things as standards, and you know, particularly in Britain, where there's this strong tradition of public service broadcasting, and not just doing it for the money, not just doing it because it's commercial, because it gets big ratings. It was two public service broadcasters, the BBC and Channel 4, which facilitated this guy to do it, and they shouldn't have done. And you know, we have an ability in our culture. I think it's true in America, parts of Europe, but above all in Britain, where we elevate people of no talent. We do. People of no redeeming value whatsoever.
We do.
Of national icons.
Yeah.
I give you Jimmy Savile.
He's a
classic example of that.
So he ended up with the Jimmy Savile thing there. I completely agree with everything he just said, but I did actually reply to that with a little bit of my sort of perspective on it. And I can share that with you now. I said, my argument is similar, although my take is that producers need to have the power to fire presenters. Commissioners don't hear about it. Production company bosses, execs are too afraid to report difficult divas. They make producers and teams put up with horrendous behavior by presenters sometimes. And so presenters learn that they can push it as far as they like. Nobody ever says no to them. Runners and researchers are often the most vulnerable on the team. They're in awe of these presenters. The industry has to change, and that means roles and responsibilities in TV production need to be clearly defined, almost maybe in law. Producers are the boss. Producers need to be trained how to manage people and celebs before being appointed to the role. No presenter can call the shots, and no presenter is too big to get fired by a producer, any producer. Right, so I said that, and I absolutely believe everything I said there, but there was a really brilliant reply by somebody called Steve Carroll. Steve Carroll says, as someone who's worked in the industry for 30 years, same as me, this is never going to happen. Most crew members, including producers, are freelance. They stay quiet to safeguard their future earnings. That's completely true. When I raised safety concerns on the show to an EP, I was never hired again. Exactly the same me. I flagged a bully. I went to the exec of the independent production company that I was working for. I told them about my boss, who was the producer, who was a bully. And what they then took me into a session with the HR manager and started to try and pick me apart. Say, weren't you late a couple of weeks ago? I started finding faults with what I'd done. Eventually they said, we'll give you £1,500 if you shut up and go away. This is exactly what, this is how production companies work. They will pretend that they are nice and that they care about you, but they care that their biggest fear is losing the commission. The biggest fear independent production companies have is of losing the commission. So they will have their teams put up with horrendous rubbish from presenters and not tell the commissioner because they believe that that's what can the powerless freelancers do? And Steve's absolutely correct. We'll never, if we complain about it or do what I'm doing right now, we'll never work again on television. I definitely won't work again professionally in television. Not for an independent production company. Not unless the industry changes or they wake up and they think, well, this Craig Duncan guy over on that Fludded YouTube channel, he's exactly the person we should be consulting about what we need to do to improve. That's exactly what they should be doing. Come and speak to me. I've been there. I've been in it. I've been sort of a undercover producer. I've identified the mistakes that have been made. I've seen them, and I ain't afraid. I made a big decision, which was to not go into becoming the exec producer. The big boss based in the office all the time. I wanted to be out capturing stories with a camera, just me, the camera, traveling, meeting people, listening to their stories. That's all I wanted to do. So I did it. I did it for years and years and years and years. Some of the stories were just petty stories about people doing up a chateau or something like that in France. Sometimes I was filming the Yakuza out in Tokyo. I went to America and spent some time with the KKK and found out how they operate in their brains. And I've had an amazing journey and met some amazing people in my life. But the key thing is that all the people that have that I was making these shows for, well, I was making them for me, and I was making the shows, not them. What the way they treat you, I mean, they're very nice. Generally, they can be very nice, but there is an underlying current, an understanding that you are completely get riddable. You're expendable, basically, is what I'm saying. So Steve Carroll's correct. People, crew members, including producers and freelancers. So the point that producers are freelancers. Now, I'm arguing that producers need to be the boss. I think that we have a problem with production companies. And I don't know why there's so many just suddenly popped up. When Channel 5 and Channel 4 came along, they needed more content, and the broadcasters themselves didn't have the capability to make as many programs as they needed. So the need for independent production companies came into existence, and they popped up everywhere. Now, an independent production company is just a company like any other, and it'll probably be like 3 or 4 people, and there'll be like some guy who used to be an exec producer at the BBC who set up their company, knows a couple of commissioners at the BBC or Channel 4. They will have a production manager. These people will be permanent staff. They'll have a production manager. They'll have probably a director, artistic director, something like that. There might be 3 or 4 of them. And their jobs are, they're permanent staff employed by the production company. Every time they get a commission, rather than have to pay a producer to be there for the amount of time they don't have a commission, they'll only bring in a producer when they've got a commission, i.e. when they've got a job on. And they'll put an advert out, usually on tvtalentmanager.co.uk or someplace like that. And that advert will bring in a producer to come and look after this new show. That producer will then probably not really be involved in the selection of everyone else, like an assistant producer or a runner or a director or a PD, producer director or a camera operator. Any of these people will probably still be selected by the people who run the company. But these people are all freelancers. They're transient in their offices, and they will, even the editors, they will all come and work in a show and then be gone. And if they just don't like you, they won't call you again. There's no hard and fast rule to it. If they really like you, they'll use you again. But if they just think, it's not my style, they don't laugh at my jokes, it can be as petty as that. It's never said, of course, but that's what you do. So Steve Carroll is absolutely correct. Edgar Robson, whatever your name is. It needs to change because producers you need to have a full team there carrying out the responsibilities of that role. I've seen credits on shows I've worked on where there was a credit for an assistant producer who didn't exist. They actually gave the runner and they do it because they have to justify in their budget charging the broadcaster for that person being working on the show, and of course that person never existed. So they have to put down somebody in the credits of the show. They have to have an assistant producer. They never hired an assistant producer, but they billed them for it. This is what happens in the industry. It's very, very ropey, and it needs to get a lot better. So yeah, what do we do? How do we get producers and freelancers? How do we get away from? Why do we want to start giving these people more permanent jobs? How does it work? How should it work? What do we change? I think that if you're going to hire like executive producers, then you need to hire actual producers as well. And those producers need to be able to call the shots. And also there should be a rule about you have to tell the commissioner and the broadcaster every time your presenter is behaving badly. I don't know. These are things that I need to think about in a lot more detail. But thanks to Steve Carroll, thanks to Andrew Neil, it's got me thinking about it. And I think we're going to get there. And I just hope that broadcasters start to listen. Now, I've been very vocal recently about all of this. This is what I'm so passionate about the television industry and getting it fixed, and particularly the BBC and getting the BBC fixed. That and I've got ideas about how to do it because I know how to fix it. And it's very difficult and frustrating when you have such confidence in what you're saying is right. It spurs me on to just keep talking about it. So until they fix it, I'm not going to shut up. Thanks for watching.